Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So what I'll do today, I'll discuss a very important and very short topic. That's the duplicate management. You might have heard about this topic, since if you've been using Salesforce for a while. It's an out-of-box functionality which stops um, duplicate entry to your Salesforce database. Now, I'll give you a very simple example, right? So before I get into that, so duplicate management is a functionality you can extend to business account, contacts, leads, right? Person account, if you have enabled that. So you might have seen as a sales rep, right? At times, a customer is represented twice, thrice, even five times. I've seen an org where the same person has been represented like in a different ways, like eight times, which is insane, right? So just a simple example, right? If you are selling an item, for instance, so beers, yeah, and a customer wants to buy that, so they want to reach out to you. They could reach out to you by email or could by phone. Say, for instance, they try to do both. So, and a different customer agent is looking after that. Now, what might happen, right? They might end up in creating a duplicate record in under contact, right? If you have not turned on the duplicate information, and which is not really good, right? In terms of your forecasting, which is not really good in terms of your, um, serving a customer because you're trying to send out a duplicate email because it's represented twice, right? So it's not really a great representation of a customer. So you could pretty much avoid that if you enable your matching rule and duplicate rules, right? Which is pretty straightforward. I'll show you how. But before I do that, I'll just show you a very simple example, what I meant by that, how the duplicate management works. So I go to contact. Let's say I have this customer, right? You see the P Jack, Peter Jackson, Pete Point Jackson. All of them are similar people. So you can see that the four time representation, this happened before the duplicate management option was enabled. Now, let's say we got a duplicate management option, matching rules enabled, and now a customer agent tried to create a similar customer. Let's see what happens. So they try to create a contact. So they try to create a first name, last name, and voila, you got a record. And when you try to do view duplicate, you see they tell you, look, we got two information, right? So, and which is not really good. So would you like to open this or would you like to create, right? So this is one of the things which duplicate management helps you. You could pretty much block it if you wanted to. Let's say, for instance, if you can go pretty strict and say, look, if a system finds a duplicate, stop the agent from creating a record. You can pretty much do that. Now, that's in a nutshell a very simple representation of how the duplicate uh, rules and the matching rules works. So I call it as a duplicate management because it helps you manage your record duplication, right? So in that terms, I use that management term. Now, there are a few simple settings, which is very easy for you to get started. And I will highly encourage, right? You should consider adoption because if you wanted to keep your org clean, then it's very important that you don't duplicate your information, right? So it's pretty simple. What I'll do, right? You go to your setup, and under setup, look for matching rules. So I've created one custom matching rule. So I show you what I did. So you see matching rules here. First, you go to matching rules. You need to create a matching rule first, um, and my apologies. I think there's an issue with my browser, so I'll fix that. I did promise last time, but sorry, I forgot about that. So I created a something called the contact rule. You can create a new rule. So just for instance, and you can pick up an object, let's say account, and you can say next, and you can fill in the information, and you can choose which field you want. Let's say account name. So you have an option if you want your matching method to be exact. Like if it's, for instance, if it's a Dave limited, it will exactly look for Dave limited. If you put exact, right? Otherwise, it won't match. If you put fuzzy name, then if it's Dave Limited or D Limited, and kind of try to compare it, right? So it gives you more flexibility. It depends what you're after. You can also match the blank field. Sometimes you leave it as blank, so it compares it as equal. So let's say you have an account, which account name blank, just a simple, stupid example I'm saying. Whereas another account, you try to create an account, which account name blank, you can do that as well. Now you can say account number, you want exact, you say account source, you want exact, and you can have a filter. You can do one and two, or you can make it as or. So you can define your filter criteria. So once you do that, something similar I done for contact rule. If you see, I have a contact first name, it's fuzzy. I've talked about fuzzy, right? And contact last name fuzzy. So I made everything fuzzy, except the email. So what that will do is that, like Pete Jackson, first and last name, and Peter Jackson, to try to compare it, because it's a fuzzy match. Email has to be exact, like Pete Jack at gmail.com. The other person needs to have pjack at email.com. And if all of these condition matches, then it will trigger a response to say, hey, you got a duplicate match. Now, to enable the duplicate match, you have to link this matching rule to your duplicate rules. Now, that's pretty simple. So once you create a matching rule, right, you need to activate it. That's very important. Then you go to sorry, my org is pretty slow. Duplicate rules. Um, Under duplicate rules, you will see some out of box standard contact. So what I did, I go to standard contact duplicate rules and I edit it, right? And what I try to do, say here, I instead of the standard matching rules, I linked uh, this matching criteria to the custom one which I've created. And yeah, and this is what I was saying. What action you wanted to do? Would you like to alert, which it's happening, or you can block it? If you block it, basically what happens is that when an agent tries to create a contact, and if the matching rules get triggered, then it will block any kind of creation, right? To say, hey, look, you can't create it because there's already the person named Pete Jack exists in the system. So you could do that and you can save it, and that's pretty much it. You just have to be pretty careful, as a rule of thumb, before you enable it, what implication it will have on your download process, right? Sometimes business will say, "Hey, we don't need it. It makes it easy." That's the balance you have to keep between your data quality as well as the business requirement. Obviously, I think business will be pretty convinced if you explain to them the implication of having a duplicate record in the system, right? It will not help them with the forecast if they wanted to do machine learning. That's not going to help them either because you have to clean your data before they do any of the such things, right? And it also not a great user experience for your customer because if you have a duplicate information there's a very high chance you might send out an email twice or thrice to the same customer. And if I'm a customer, I get pretty pissed, asking, is the company trying to scam me, right? By sending out, 2, 3 emails about the promotions or whatnot. So I hope that's quite interesting for you guys in terms of the way I explained the duplicate management. Obviously, I do appreciate the fact that it's quite old and it's there and it's very powerful. So yeah, so see if you need to use it. So that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Sunday. Adios.